Hi, Josiah here. I recently uploaded a video recording of me reading a speech that I wrote for a local activist rally. One man by the name of Eye of Braille responded to that speech, identifying himself as an anti-feminist and expressing firm disagreement with my message. This video is a reply to his comments, as well as a general response to various anti-feminist arguments I've seen posted around YouTube and other social media sites. I welcome ongoing dialogue about these topics, so feel free to argue if you think my ideas are in error. Here is part 2 of my response. I propose that we stop fighting each other and start attacking damaging ideas in our cultural conditioning. A culture which, overtly or subtly, suggests that men are superior to women, smarter, more capable, more deserving of respect, more qualified to lead, benefits no one. I know it might seem like that benefits men, but it doesn't. It puts men and women both into a skewed set of social expectations which degrade everyone's happiness and actively stultify progress. I think that many of humanity's biggest problems, the things we're still grappling with, like war, poverty, disease, the long-term ecological habitability of this planet for our species, cannot ever be solved until men and women are able to work together as true equals, until all races are able to work together as true equals. As long as some groups are still being oppressed, still being placed in fear, still being held down or controlled by the aggressive, dominant assertion of the will of the privileged group via force, whether that be physical, social, or economic force, we're never going to see real progress on solving our world's problems. So men, it may seem like having some power over women, some advantage from the way patriarchal ideas structure our society and cause people to behave, is a good thing. It really isn't. It's keeping us stuck right in the middle of a whole lot of shit that causes all of us grief. I'm not some guy who's lived a typical, sheltered, easy, middle-class white man's life, and who eventually, out of boredom or dissatisfaction with my own failure to succeed in our society, became seduced and brainwashed by radical feminist ideology and now spouted off mindlessly like a religious zealot. I can see how my speech, decontextualized from my life, might give one that impression, especially if one were already firmly fixed on a contrary position, and thus inclined to automatically perceive the opposing ideas in that highly dismissive light. I've had a lot of life experience, the kind of experiences that most people do not have in our society, and those who do have these experiences very rarely ever come to a point where they can effectively communicate about them to the larger population. I've been a thinker my whole life, and my life has afforded me a great deal of time to think, to introspect, to consider my own experiences as well as the words of others. I didn't come to feminism quickly or easily. It took me quite a lot of years to digest it and slowly change my mind. I was raised on pure grade A American sexism, as my father had plenty of anger toward women and all of the standard patriarchal ideas about who men and women were and should be. For many years, I hated my mother so much that I referred to her only as that bitch. And I can recall quite clearly how mad I was at women at various points in my earlier life. Every vicious, hateful argument that I see anti-feminists and MRAs spitting, I can at least in memory relate to, as I felt most, if not all of those things myself at one time. It's easy to hate them, isn't it? We're raised, and everything in our culture reinforces this idea, to think that we're supposed to be strong, competitive, and dominant. That we're supposed to go out and get whatever we want, and that women are there for our taking. Women are presented to us as objects to be obtained, as prizes to be won, as challenges to conquer, as our rightful due as men. We're told that if we do what we're supposed to do as men, if we're real men, if we work hard and do the right thing and we're tough and brave and ambitious, that we are entitled to the respect, admiration, and submission of women. Their bodies are something we desire, and damn it, as men, we're supposed to go out and get whatever we desire. We deserve it. We're doing everything right, so all good things are supposed to come to us, to be ours, including women, women's bodies, sex. But then we find to our consternation that these damn women, they just won't cooperate. They're not submitting to us the way they're supposed to. They're not offering themselves quietly as objects for us to use and enjoy, despite the fact that we're doing all the things that real men are told to do. Why won't they get with the program? Oh, I see the problem. It's feminism. This newfangled, socially disruptive, sick, twisted, anti-man set of ideas that is making women entirely unreasonable now. For millennia, we, the men, the rightful rulers, have controlled women's bodies and their destinies. And now, just in recent years, suddenly women want to overthrow all that? That's not fair. It makes sense for us, as men, to fight back against that, doesn't it? We hate the claims of feminism because they threaten us on every level. They threaten us psychologically, trying to make us feel bad for who we are, for what we do, for how we think even. They threaten our position of power and dominance and the possibility of us always getting what we want from women and in society without much argument or trouble from women. They feel unfair because in a way, they are unfair. Ha, didn't see that coming, did you? The attacks upon patriarchy and upon the conduct and perspectives of men that feminism makes, and the demands that feminism makes upon men to change, are a bit unfair. For this reason. We, the men who are alive right now, didn't choose patriarchy. We didn't choose to be raised and taught and trained and indoctrinated by a constant media barrage to believe the things we do about women, sex, and manhood. We inherited this. We were just children, and we were molded and formed by the men who came before us, by the incalculable weight of hundreds of generations of patriarchal culture. So then, sometime later, we suddenly find ourselves face to face with women who are telling us that everything we believe, who we are, how we perceive the world, is all wrong and bad, and we're bad for doing the things that we were raised and taught to do. We feel like there's no other way to be, that this is just who men are, who we are, inherently, and thus that women attacking that is horribly unfair, unjust, unreasonable, even hurtful. Like, hey, this is just how men are. We've always been this way. How dare you act like it's somehow wrong, like we're guilty of something just for being who we naturally are? How dare you demand that we change? We're just doing what we've always been told we should as men. Imagine if you had a dog, and you trained that dog for years to always shit outside and bury his shit. But then one day, you just lost your fucking mind and started yelling at your dog and demanding that he shit inside, in a litter box, and acting like he should have known that all along. Your dog, in this hypothetical scenario, would rightly be pissed and confused, which would make him even more pissed because nobody likes to feel stupid. If your dog could talk, he might say, "What the fuck? I've been shitting outside my whole life, since I was a puppy, and you never said anything about shitting in this stupid fucking box. And now all of a sudden you're losing it and calling me a bad dog and acting like I did something wrong because I didn't do this thing that I've never been told to do? Fuck you. Fuck your shit box. I'ma shit wherever the fuck I want, and if you don't like it, I'ma bite your ass." Well, many men, having grown up in a patriarchal culture and then suddenly confronted with feminism, feel an awful lot like that dog. And to be fair, I can't entirely blame them. I felt that way too. It's easy to get angry when we're challenged. When someone wants to change things in a way which might make us lose power or not get what we want. When someone blames us for something and we feel innocent. When ideas that we've held as so fundamental and incontestable that we've never even considered them before are suddenly called false or harmful. It's easy to get defensive, to rally up with other men and make women, or at least feminists, the enemy. It's easy to close our eyes to the very real, very awful struggles and suffering that women still have to endure in a world largely run according to patriarchal principles to this day. Because otherwise, we'd have to care, and we'd have to look within ourselves, and we'd have to do the hard work of changing. It's easy to close our ears to women's voices because we don't want to hear them speak their truth. Because it's so much more comfortable just to say, I've heard all this before. Feminist lies, propaganda, man-hating, women trying to gain supremacy, women trying to bring down men, women exaggerating or outright lying about the ways that men harm them, women making up false statistics or perpetuating myths which have been debunked by totally impartial pro-male sources. Women just trying to make me feel guilty, to blame me for shit which isn't my fault. I've heard it all 1,000 times, and I'm sick of it, so I'm just not gonna listen. I'm going to immediately shut my mind to it, immediately discount it, immediately contradict it, mock it, attack it, maybe even threaten the speaker. Fuck this feminist bullshit. It's so easy to feel that way, to choose that way. And other men, so many other men, will pat you on the back and support you in this. Society itself will support you in this. What you see on TV, in movies, in advertisements, in the news, in video games, in religious teachings, will all support you in this. There is great comfort and psychological payoff, as well as tangible social payoff, in ignoring, even assaulting, feminism and the concerns of women in general. There is difficulty, discomfort, and sacrifice in opening your mind, your eyes, your heart, your ears to women, truly seeing things from their point of view, and choosing to stand with them against a system, a set of ideas, which is deeply, horribly oppressive and injurious. Rape and violence against women is a unique evil in our world. Even if not in its frequency or exclusivity, it certainly is in its effects. Women have to live in fear, in shame, in various states of disempowerment because of the real and present threat that men pose to them, both in their bodily safety and their sexual autonomy. Men find it very difficult to understand this because, with the exception of a few rare circumstances, we never really have to experience this. We never actually feel this. We are not, by the bare facts of the man-woman dynamic, really victimized by women the way that they are victimized by us. This is a horrible, ugly thing, and it's something that we as men shouldn't be able to live with. First, we have to start listening to them, to their stories, to their perspectives, to their real pain and real fear and real frustration. Then we can stop denying it. Even when that hurts, even when that's hard. This is something we need to do, not just for the sake of women, but for our own sake as well. What kind of world do we want to live in? More importantly, what kind of men do we want to be? The kind that women have cause to be afraid of? Or the kind that women trust and feel safe around? once we accept the truth of this terribly unfair imbalance, we can see that most men are not aware of it, or don't really believe it, or just don't care. And because of the toxic manhood culture that we're raised and steeped in, rape and violence against women is sadly normalized, justified, defended, and laughed at. It can't stop happening until men decide that it's no longer acceptable and start speaking up to other men to spread this idea, to spread the idea that rape is no longer okay, that we men won't tolerate it anymore, and that violence against women is no longer okay, that we men won't tolerate it anymore. And it doesn't matter whether the statistics are wrong, or whether women demand a bunch of unfair things, or whether the rhetoric aimed at us is unjust and offensive, or whether women also engage in violence. All of those things are secondary, side issues, distractions. Because the most important thing is that one half of our population, a wonderful half, whose contributions are truly needed in this world today, is being quite literally oppressed by the violence and sexual aggression of the other half. And that is something that needs to stop. It's something that we can stop. We just have to quit denying it and start decrying it. You're an intelligent man, a thinker, a man who actually does care about living in a fair, reasonable world. I can see those things in the way that you communicate your ideas. There was a great deal of unnecessarily hostile and aggressive rhetoric in my speech, and you called that out. You're right. As I said in the beginning, it wasn't targeted at opponents of feminism, but at those who already partially supported the ideas expressed. But even so, I communicated poorly, and even gave the impression of toxicity or totalitarian vitriol, which is not at all the kind of message that I want to express. So I can see that you're a thoughtful man. I didn't come to feminism casually, nor do I hold to it with religious blindness. I don't expect you or any other man to do so either. But I'd ask you to simply consider whether or not some of the things you believe in, the messages you've received from the other side of the issue, are simply indoctrination, social conditioning, or safe denial that is more comfortable than considering the alternative. I'd ask you to consider listening to women, especially to their actual stories, their actual lived experiences, with a more open mind and heart, and try to imagine things from their perspective. Maybe that will cause you to decide that you're no longer able to tolerate the way things are. Maybe that will inspire you to stand up for those who are so much more endangered by us than we are by them. And when you hear other men arguing or joking about ideas that directly support a worldview which leads to individual men believing that they have the right to beat and rape women, maybe you'll tell them, no, I don't agree with that. I hope so, because these women, only the latest in a series of hundreds of generations who have been physically and sexually tormented by men, with very little recourse or hope for relief, really could use some more smart, thoughtful men like you, standing up for them, standing up for their right to simply live in safety. Thank you for being willing to engage in this dialogue with me, and again, for your restraint, civility, and complimentary words. Oh, and hey, thanks. I like that shirt quite a bit myself.